Hey everyone, Dr. Rika here, and in today's renditions about labs, I'm not going to be talking about the 4 words your doctor should never say, but I'm going to start introducing labs or one lab your doctor will likely never order, and it's really important when it comes to health. So the lab I'm going to be referencing and describing and discussing today is called the Omega Check. So what the Omega Check looks for is the total body's levels of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid. It also looks at other fatty acids, but for simplicity, I picked the 3 items within the check that are super important and can lead to an inflamed state and be the difference between you having joint pain or acne or feeling fatigued and sluggish or living a long life. So the importance of it is, interestingly enough, what I also want to highlight is that in medical research, the data and research published studies can take up to 10 years to trickle down to our clinical practices. So in the Framingham study, they found that if an omega-3 index was equal to or greater than 8.0, you had a lower chance of dying due to any cause. So let me say that one more time. An omega-3 index of 8.0 or higher led to a lower chance of dying due to any cause. So that's cancer, heart attack, stroke, and you name it, diabetes, and so all those disease processes, that is huge. So as I always do, what I do is I'm going to list the labs, explain them, and the ones in the red here are actually a patient's value. So I don't share who the patient is because that would breach confidentiality. But this is a pretty typical pattern I see. So in this particular patient who was young and healthy and felt relatively well, the omega-3 index was 3.7. So as you can see, very much lower than 8.0. And what I found over time, and this is by drawing these over the last 8 years, that unless you're actually taking some sort of omega-3 supplementation, so fish oil, namely, there are vegetarian sources as well, you're not going to hit the 8.0 mark. So that's the first thing to note, is there's not enough omega-3s in the body. And then for this particular patient, the omega-6 total value is 44.3. So we're going to put aside what an optimal here is. What the more important thing is what is that omega-6 to 3 ratio? And so for this patient, she was at 12.0. So this puts her in an inflamed state, and because the ideal is less than 3 to 4. So 6 to 3 should be about 3 to 1, all right? And she's much higher than that. And the way you calculate it is if you do the math, taking omega-6 divided by omega-3s, and you put in the numbers, 44.3 divided by 3.7 is actually equal to 11.97 or something, but equal to 12. So what if I came in and I gave this patient some omega-3 fatty acids? Would that be the right answer? That's part of the answer, and I'll show you why. So if I added omega-3s, so her omega-6s stayed the same, 44.3, and I got her index to optimal, or up to 8.0, she'd still have a ratio of omega-6 to 3s that was too high. So the moral of the story is you would still need diet to afford the change that you needed. And you're going to say, where do I find my omega-3s? Where do I find my omega-6s? That's a very good question. So omega-3s largely come from fish products, so salmon, and that's my favorite source. But again, even if you're eating fish 2 times a week, you're not going to hit the levels. So gentle supplementation is required, and the dose is going to vary based on person to person. I'll tell you, I've only had one person come in with a level of 8.0 and higher, and that was because she was supplementing. Now, omega-6s, where are omega-6s found? So things that are processed foods are very high in omega-6, or if you cook in vegetable oil. So please do not cook in vegetable oil. So those are 2 simple changes. Now, there are other ways to bring balance, but I want to highlight the key things, because if I tell you more than a few concepts, then it may be difficult to digest and then implement. So if you're not eating fish, the first thing to do is eat fish. If you're eating a ton of processed foods, the second thing to do is drop the level of processed foods in exchange for whole foods. And then the third thing to do would be to not cook with vegetable oil. So I hope you found this informative. I know that it's very valuable in my practice to include, and this, when we bring it into balance, we oftentimes will see improved energy, less joint pain, and everything gets better. And it also, of course, decreases your long-term risk of death or dying. Signing off for now.